So here we are in beautiful Williams Lake, BC, Canada. It's March 2022. In front of us here, we've got an 85 kilowatt hour battery pack that we just took out of a 2013 Tesla Model S. And now we're going to tear it all apart. We're having fun converting to electric. So Brian, what we got going on here? You're getting the fluid out of it, eh?
Yeah, so I pulled the coolant quick disconnect off of our rack and just attached a hose into a catch, and we're just gonna run some air through it and try to pump all of the coolant out of the modules into our bucket until it's gone.
Yeah, and it's much better for transportation that way, right?
Yeah, well, we're gonna dissect this thing, and so we don't want coolant flowing everywhere when we're pulling them out, and just much better to have it clean and dry.
So tell me about this pack we got here. So it's an 85?
Yes, this is an 85 kilowatt hour battery that we pulled out of our 2013 Model S. I ran the part number here, and you can see this 01 means it's a remanufactured pack, so it's one that Tesla's refurbished. And you can also see this obstructed sticker here that says it's a Tesla loaner pack. So this was a pack they would put into a car while they were waiting to get a full pack to replace it with. So
okay, so what do you think that means for us about the health of this battery? So it's not the original pack.
It's not the original pack. It's remanufactured, and it's a service pack. I did fully charge the battery and monitor the capacity that it took, and it charged up to 72 kilowatt hours out of its 77 usable capacity.
Yeah, so explain that. So, but it's actually an 85, so what's the 77 about?
It's just marketing. It's like how a gigabyte isn't 1,000 megabytes.
Right, so this 85 is actually usable 77.
Yeah, 77.5 usable out of 85. And then the 90 kilowatt hour is actually 82 kilowatts usable. And the 100 kilowatt hour battery pack is actually over 100. It's like 104 or something. Okay,
so now how did you decide the health of this then from those
yeah, so
once you just said?
Once I determined that it was accepting 72 kilowatts out of its 77.5 capacity, and that it displayed a maximum range of 400 kilometers approximately, you're just able to do some math and determine that that's under 10% degradation on its normal max capacity of 440 kilometers or 77.5.
Okay, so this car is a 2013.
Yeah.
And it had 250,000 kilometers on it?
250,000 miles.
Miles on it? Okay.
So
by doing this diagnosing on the pack, you thinking it is
I think this pack has
healthy.
Between 100 to 150,000 kilometers. Would be my best guess, based on the degradation, because you're not going to...
So you think it's about 10% degradation?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
There's no way you could have 400,000 kilometers and not have more degradation than that. And given that it is a remanufactured pack and it's a service pack.
Yeah, so that meant that they obviously said the original pack's got a problem.
Yeah.
Here's a temporary pack. So they were obviously waiting for a fresh new pack.
Well, the first generation between 2012 and early 2014, almost every car went through a battery pack and a motor. They were running through some issues with the first wave of manufacturing. So that's one of the things I look for when I'm buying these cars is the high kilometer older cars will often have a new pack. So if I see an older car that doesn't have very many kilometers, I'll actually steer away from it. Like if I saw one with only 40,000 kilometers, I'm going to expect that it hasn't had its pack replaced yet, and it's probably not a good pack. Right under here is the pyro fuse. To be able to see that in more detail when we pull it out. But that has a small explosive that will detonate within 1/100th of a second to disconnect the battery if there's a short. coolant that Tesla uses is called G48,
G48.
and it's the same that Mercedes use. So if you need to refill your coolant, you just go to Lordco and ask for Mercedes or European Blue, and it's the same stuff. So it uses a just a battery heater off the high voltage system to heat the coolant when the battery is too cold, which up north here is most of the time, because the battery likes to be above 10 degrees Celsius. So most of the year it's too cold for it.
Yeah, so that's why you hear a little noise when the car is just outside, freezing cold. The little coolant pump is going, right?
Yeah, it's keeping the coolant pump and the heater going.
And you said 10 degrees?
Yeah, that's where it needs to do some battery management. Anything above that and the car is golden. That's why you get so much more range in the summers, because it's not putting any energy into maintaining it.
Absolutely.
Until it gets really hot. It doesn't actually keep the battery that cold. It only turns has to get plus 30 before it cares about cooling the battery down.
Okay.
And when it does that, it uses the refrigerant system from the AC to cool the coolant when it needs to. But most of the time, cycling the coolant, just cycling it through the radiator is enough to cool the battery. So our next step here is to remove all of our guide pins, which are from underneath. We've got to take them off with an E-Torx. So from up top here, we just latch a vice grip on it and twist them out. And you'll notice there's some red on there, so these were put on there with
Loctite.
the high strength Loctite.
Okay.
And you notice everything else has blue, so everything else is put in with the medium strength Loctite. And Tesla's lovely paint marks. They mark every single bolt in the car.
Yeah.
At least for this generation.
Good.
So the first thing we're going to do is take out this pyro fuse.
Okay.
Because the way the module or this battery pack works with the the modules in series is that as we start breaking the series, it gets safer and safer as we go along. We're going to pull the pyro fuse out.
Okay.
So at the
How do we
moment,
do that?
at the moment, this pack inside here is 400 volts. So we're going to pull this out, and once we pull that, that's essentially splits it in half. So then we have 2 rows of 200 volt. And then we'll take the modules out of the middle. And so we'll pull these 2 first, and then once those are out, we just start pulling modules one at a time.
Okay.
So I need my...
I'm going to take these off. Do you have a spot you want me to put these at all, or?
I got this bucket, but
Bucket?
We'll overflow pretty quick.
That's good enough for now.
We just pulled out the high voltage pack fuse, which I was expecting to have the pyro fuse, which is the standard now that we use in the performance cars. But this is actually predates that, and it's like a sand fuse. This is just essentially a ceramic coating with sand inside, and then a bunch of little wires, about a dozen little wires connecting it. And so if it were to pull too much voltage, it would melt those wires, and the sand is just there to be like an insulator. So Tesla originally designed these cars to have quick swappable battery packs.
Right, yeah.
So there was only one facility in Fremont where they tried it, and they decided that the cost of the facility made it not viable to do compared to just making charging faster. But so that's why these cars are all quick disconnect. These are quick disconnect coolant inlets. The logic connectors over here are quick disconnect. They just go straight up and down. And
Right.
the high voltage contactor is just a quick disconnect.
Right,
So when you want to remove this car, all you got to do is lower it, and everything comes unplugged automatically.
right. Yeah,
very
to
cool.
set up an infrastructure would have been huge money. You had to have these little buildings all over the place, and then they'd have to have battery packs sitting there doing nothing, just waiting for a car to come by.
I'm grateful that they explored that, though, because it makes swapping these batteries so much easier.
Yeah, making our life easy right now.
Because I've heard of some friends pulling the batteries out of the Model 3, and apparently you have to bit more or less deconstruct the whole interior to
really?
get all the bolts, because they're all bolted from the top down as well as underneath, and it's a much bigger
Wow.
job than doing an ass switch. If you have a lift, you could do it in 20 minutes.
And now they're going to the structural 4680 battery packs.
Yeah, where you won't
So-
even think about it. It's
You
the
can't pull
battery
that
pack
apart.
is the car. But
Batteries are lasting 1,000,000 miles now, so they're just kind of like throwaway cars.
I like that the batteries are good now, because if they tried to do that with the like the 2013s where they were going through a battery at 80,000 kilometers, that would have been a nightmare.
Absolutely.
So, but now I feel like
Yeah, making those structural.
yeah, I feel like the technology
can't get
is
them
there
out.
now that they can do it. But before, having the quick swappable packs was smart,
Awesome.
where they could keep these loaner packs at their shops just for this kind of thing.
Yeah, so you have a problem, they can give you a loaner pack, just zip, zip.
Yeah. You want to do a grand reveal? So here I'm
Sure.
gonna pull off this is electromagnetic shield. So that helps insulate these from interference. And here is a Tesla battery module, 5.3 kilowatt hours power. It's made up of a few hundred of these 18650 cells, and you can look and you can see the little connections and one to the bus bar.
And I'm noticing there's actually two sitting here.
Yes, the top one is a stack of 2, and then the other ones are rowed out here. So all I'm doing now is cutting all the coolant lines.
Okay.
So you can just unplug them, but it's quicker to cut them. So I'm just popping off all of the logic connectors now.
So Brian, what all did it take to prep this car to drop this battery pack?
All right, so the first thing you have to do is disconnect the high voltage disconnect, which is the fireman's loop.
Okay.
So you unplug that, and then you disconnect the 12 volt, which the 12 volt in the original Model S is in the best location ever, in the back underneath the air filter, underneath the fuse relay box.
Seriously.
So it's a big job to change the 12 volt in the 2013 cars. They fixed that in the 2014. It's right over here where it's easy to get at. So that's your first little bit of prep.
Okay.
Once you're there, you just got to lift the car up. So we just use blocks, but you can use a lift if you have one.
Yeah, so put it up on blocks. And this is all the clearance you needed to do this, eh?
You just need enough to get the battery out once you're down.
So how did you finally drop it? What did you have to do, and how did you finally drop it?
All right, so first we took out the centering bolts that are in the middle that used a special Torx bit. So there's about 15 of those. And then we took out all but 4 of the bolts in the rails, which are what hold most of the weight for the vehicle. So once we had all but 4 out, we got our forklift in underneath to take the weight of the battery, undid our last 4 bolts, and just lowered it out. Since all of the other connections, the logic, high voltage, and coolant are all quick disconnects, it just lowers straight down.
And that's nice.
And then once it's out, we set it on the ground, repositioned our forklift, pulled it out the back.
Out the back end of it?
Yeah, because it won't quite fit between the wheels.
Oh, I was wondering.
Yeah, so
yeah, because it's the length of the car almost.
Exactly. So Again, if you had a lift, you could get the car way out of the way and just wheel it away. But
Yeah, well,
in our scenario,
not
we
very
used
many of us have
Yeah.
the access to a hoist.
but it worked out pretty slick. And even doing it our way with blocks and forklift, it only took us 20 minutes to get the battery out, which is a pretty good considering what a large component it is.
Yeah, now we stripped it all down, and all 60 of them are sitting in my car.
Yeah, that car
1,000 pounds.
That car now has 32 modules in it. Yeah, you could go to Kamloops and back. Let's take a look and see what our alerts are like.
That won't even let you in. What are you grabbing there now?
I'm just plugging my 12 volt back in so I can roll up my windows, keep it out of the elements.
Can't get in with no electricity.
No, sure can't. Oh, there. Now she's alive a little bit.
So what's the dash gonna say? What's the Tesla gonna say? Where's my battery?
It's not saying much right now. Ah, yes. So our charge port is disabled and service is required.
Look if I can stick the camera right in there and just see.
Our coolant's
Yep.
low. Yeah,
The car's dead. It's stranded.
we have some issues. It says we still have 80% battery though.
Oh, perfect.
Nice. Service is required. Yeah, I wonder why.
Now that I was out of the sun, it's showing me that my iPad said was low battery. So that's what it was. But I got through that last bit, so that's my other problem. I gotta buy a new iPad because the battery is need a toast on it.
That's better.
This guy. Electric, zero emission vehicle. Go green.